Perfect. We're live. Hi, everyone. This is Sasha from Women's Fight News, along with Suzy.
Hi.
We're back with our weekly roundups. Obviously, we got into a nice little routine with them. Oh, 2 seconds. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. So, we are back, obviously. I'm actually having a few problems, though, to start with. I can hear myself.
Okay. You can't hear me at all, or?
I can hear you, but I can hear me as
Oh.
well. So, Suzy, while I figure this out, do you want to have a quick start?
Yeah. Okay. So it's been another good weekend of boxing after the phenomenal weekend last weekend. Friday night we saw British fighter Kirsty Bavington, who went in for the this was kind of went under the radar, but she was for the EBU European welterweight title against the Hungarian fighter who is 5-4-0 called Timea Belek. And for anybody who doesn't know Kirsty, she was 5-2-2, and she's been on quite a good streak recently, winning streak, and she's progressing quite nicely. She's somebody who is very respected in the boxing circuit because she works extremely hard and people really like her. And so it was lovely to see this fight. It was a lovely fight, actually, and it's on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it. But yeah, she dominated, and the judges scored it 99-92, 99-91, and 100-90 in favour of Kirsty, who's the new European welterweight champion. I felt this. Yeah, I like this fight. I really enjoyed watching it because she's quite entertaining.
Yeah, definitely.
Her work rate. She is so fit. She just keeps coming forward, keeps throwing, overwhelming, and by the end of it, the poor girl, the other fighter was just didn't know what was going on. And at one point, she was so exhausted, she just got on her knees, didn't she?
Yeah, it was an absolutely great fight. I loved it. I like the path that she's taken. Obviously, she kind of come onto the scene where we all seen it on Matchroom against Sandy Ryan. That is always going to be a tough fight. Obviously, it didn't go her way. But she then came back onto the scene on Boxer and beat April Hunter. And then I'm liking her journey. She's not rushing to, need these world title fights straight away and things like that. She just take her time. Like, these European titles aren't happening enough. People aren't looking for these often enough. I don't think they're overlooked.
Yeah.
Why? You've got a title. It's a fantastic opportunity. And the more fighters that do them, the higher level the fights will be as well at that level.
Definitely. It's just a lovely stepping stone up.
Yeah.
Because if you think about Sandy, I mean, Sandy beat Kirsty, but she's gone on and taken a massive leap and lost her last fight.
Yeah.
Whereas here's Kirsty, who's European champion. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes perhaps they just miss out. People miss out that stepping stone, like you say.
Yeah, because it's levels, isn't it, at the end of the day? Like, you don't have to jump from 4 or 5 fights to a world title. Just because some fighters have done it doesn't mean that needs to be the new thing to do. Like, there's levels in the sport and do them. Like, there's no rush, especially with these fighters that are still like in their 20s. I don't get why we're seeing them rush into world level and then they're struggling, but they don't have the experience. No matter what you've done prior, whether you've been a big amateur or whatever, the pro game's different. So I'd like to see girls starting to take their time a little bit more and go for these. We saw a Central Area title not too long ago, obviously this European title. I'd like to see people do more of this before they progress onwards.
Yeah, and the Commonwealth. And
hopefully soon a British title. I don't know why we're still waiting for that, but maybe one day.
And shout out to Katie Healy, who did the commentary for that fight. She was excellent, I thought.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
She'll be that's another sideline job, I think, for her. But she spoke really well. She was really good. Got a high boxing IQ as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. No, I messaged her afterwards. I was like, that was so good.
Yeah, no, it was great to see. Another fight, Christina Hammer. Good to see her back in the ring. Again, she got a unanimous decision. Not too sure on the scores. It hasn't come up on BoxRec yet. It was just an 8-rounder fight, which I was quite surprised at. But her last fight was also just 8 rounds. And prior to that, she's been a little bit inactive over the years. So I suppose 8 rounds is better than nothing.
Yeah, because she dabbled in going to the amateurs, didn't she? Because she wanted to go into Olympics and all that.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, no, it's interesting because obviously with Franchon becoming
Yeah.
undisputed super middle, potentially there could be some sort of big fight down the line against Christina Hammer.
I would love to see that. Obviously, Christina, I think she is now 28-1. Her only loss comes from Clarissa Shields. So, of course, no shame there at all. I would love to see the Franchon fight. I think that would be a huge fight. Franchon's just showed last weekend how good she is and how she deserves to hold all them belts. And, she loves a challenge, doesn't she, Franchon? She's not going to shy away from big fights at all, is she?
No, but she loves it. She's quite happy.
Yeah, she thrives on it all, doesn't she? And what I loved about her that week, she just thrived on every second of it. She wasn't overwhelmed at all. She actually belongs on the big stage. Her
Yeah.
personality, everything about her, her fashion, just
Yeah.
she's such a character, and like she dresses unbelievable, and she just brings something a little bit different, I think, to the sport, and
Yeah.
she belongs on that big stage.
Yeah, she is just a star. I was thinking when they had the national anthem singing for the main event, I was like, oh, haven't they brought Franchon out? She would be
Yes.
singing.
That is such a good shout. She was
Yeah.
probably a bit tired, to be fair, after
Yeah,
her fight, 'cause I mean, she did win that one comfortably, but it was a bit of a slugfest that time, so
that is
we'll
true.
we'll let her off, but I'd like to see her do it next time, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And another fight that happened was a world title defense for. Now, I'm sorry if apologies for pronunciation of the name. For French fighter Ségaline Lefebvre, who's the WBO World Super Bantamweight Champion.
Mhm.
So she was before the fight 15-0 against a Spanish fighter Melina Soros, who was 18-1-1. And she comfortably won the fight,
Yeah.
97-93 on all three judges' scorecards.
Yeah, kind of a dark horse. She goes in the division not really spoken about too often, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but she's a great champion, great fighter. Again, got to convince and win. I'd like to see it again. She's someone who deserves to be on these like bigger platforms. Not enough people know about her, know about what she's doing and how good she is in the ring. And that's such a good division as well. So it's a bit of a shame. So I would like to see her maybe, on a bigger stage, hopefully, if she looks to unify possibly coming up.
Definitely, definitely. I feel like, yeah, like you say, she's this sort of hidden fighter. She's like the
Yeah,
dark. So, yeah, definitely. There's some great matchups there. I
yeah,
mean, you've obviously just had the Australian Neeks,
yeah,
Shanika Johnson.
yeah,
Neeks, that's what I wanted to say. Um, she's just won the IBF belt there that way. That'd be quite a nice little matchup
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, 100%. And Matchroom are kind of dabbling with going to Australia, and there's opportunities there actually for them to put on these fights, and it's a platform they deserve. Again, it is just such a good division. So but it's kind of forgotten about a little bit at the minute. But some big fights to be made in that division, I think. So, looking forward to it. I'd love to see, someone like Shanika Johnson. Again, she deserves that platform. She's kind of went, we all know about her, but we don't get to see her a lot. I think that's the issue sometimes with being in Australia, is that if you're not in Australia, you don't get to see a lot of what happens outside, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there's definitely rumours, obviously, of Matchroom, hopefully putting on a good few shows there. So could be an opportunity there.
Yeah, and obviously we've got Ellie Scotney, who's trying to push herself up to world level.
Mm,
Probably by the end of the year, I think she's hoping for a world title
mm.
shot, and that's her division. So I wonder who she'd be up against.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know who she is eyeing up, actually, because like you
Yeah.
say, she has mentioned that she is looking to go, contend for a world title by the end of the year. Obviously, she's got quite a tough fight coming up.
Yes.
So we'll see how that gets on when she defends her title. But yeah, it's a very, very good division. So and hopefully with someone like Ellie Scotney who's signed to Matchroom, when she is challenging for world titles, then obviously that shines a light on the other girls who are currently champions. So they'll hopefully get their
Yeah.
moment sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Now in other news, Mikaela Mayer, Alycia Baumgardner are just hilarious. So I could genuinely just sit on Twitter and watch them all day. Like, they just waste so much of my time in such a good way, because I'm just scrolling through for hours, just watching them go back and forth. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they really go at it. They don't hold back.
Not at all. Not at all. Now, I was surprised because they were both at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I was surprised, like the next day, I hadn't seen anything, any like face-offs or anything like that. And I thought maybe they didn't see each other. And then obviously Alycia put on Twitter, I think yesterday or the day before, that they were sitting maybe like 4 rows apart.
Yeah.
And she criticized Mikaela for like not coming up and saying anything to her. But I suppose it's better for us because we get to see it all on Twitter then.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there was an even dig in that, wasn't there? Because Alycia was like, "Oh, I was
on
row." You were way back.
Yeah, back in row 6.
Yeah.
And then obviously Alycia put that picture on of her as like a young girl with boxing gloves on, which was such a cute photo. She has not changed at all, has she? Like, it's just unbelievable. But then Mikaela Mayer puts like something on the lines of like, I can't believe you've been boxing that long and your only accomplishment is beating Terry Harper.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that's quite a big achievement. Everyone knows I'm a Terry fan. I just think beating, world champion anyway is a big achievement.
Yeah.
And I think at least she's only young. I think she's about 28.
Yeah, she's pretty young. Yeah.
So plenty of time. So a little dig there, but then just going back and forth, and I'm just all here for it though. Definitely.
That's it. I just wonder how because obviously a lot of it is banter, is trying to build the fight.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how much of it is banter and how much of it is going to be bad blood, and how much this will actually create some real bad blood.
It'll be interesting. Like, I always think it's just the classic trash talk going into a fight, hyping a fight, selling a fight. But then Alycia put like she wants to make it a bare knuckle fight on Twitter. Yeah. And then part of me thinks they probably do genuinely dislike each other. Yeah. But I think that's the frame of mind you've probably got to get yourself in when you're knowing that you're going to fight. Not everyone can be as like pleasant as Katie and Amanda, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it is a case they are going to have to sell the fight. I'm sure after the fight it'll be hugs and kisses, as it normally is after fights.
Yeah.
But I'm all here for it, definitely. I don't know how quick the fight's going to be made, though.
No.
I keep thinking it's not going to be made, but then I have seen that Matchroom and Top Rank are possibly working together on a show, so that does create an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think obviously we spoke about it the other day, didn't we? It'd have to happen sooner rather than later, because I don't think Mayer will stay in 130 much longer.
No, definitely. But you know what's quite exciting as well is even if she moves up, we might get that Terry Harper fight that we've always wanted against Mayer. And then also, Alycia might then move up, and then we'll get that down the line. I think you were mentioning that, how we might get that further down the line, or both.
I would like both. This is why I think sometimes everyone waits for like the perfect opportunity, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Like last weekend, it did happen at the perfect timing, but many times it hasn't. And I think we shouldn't be scared of seeing like, trilogies, but they don't have to be one after the other after the other. Like, let's see the fight this year at 130. Let's see it in a couple of years at 135, and then, go from there. That's what I would prefer rather than waiting too long, because you've seen it with if you look at the men with Joshua and Fury, how many years was that spoke about, but there had to be this like perfect pathway for them to get there, and that's just not life. People lose, Joshua lost, and it causes a dent in it. So I'd rather if it can just happen, just make it happen, and then
I agree,
it'll be worth even more in a couple of years, and that's even better.
Definitely, without a doubt, because it's such a shame when people are past their prime and it's not a true reflection of how it would have been.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard to say with the women because you forget like how kind of new women's boxing is in theory, within the last, couple of years with all these big fights. But if you look at the men, look at Brooke and Khan, that fight was meant to happen like 3,000 years prior. Yeah. And it happened, and don't get me wrong, it still sold and it made a lot of money, but it just was a bit crap, wasn't it, at the end of the day? Like, you want to see these fighters in their prime.
Definitely. It was kind of sad, wasn't it?
It wasn't, and at least
being his fans would have just been like, well, that wasn't a reflection of him.
Yeah, that's it. And then, like, no matter whether you win or lose, you're not really winning or losing because there's so many excuses.
Yeah.
Say, well, I would have beat you years ago. I wasn't in my prime. And, all of that comes about. So I'd like to see it sooner rather than later. And then,
Yeah.
Let's see it again in a couple of years.
And you've just triggered in me a memory from Twitter that just made me laugh. Was talking about bad blood in the sport. One of the worst bad bloods I'd say in females is Sinisa Estrada versus Marlon Esparza.
Yes.
Now, Sinisa's suddenly come on Twitter with a storm. Now, there's rumours going about that it's not actually her, it's someone else sort of doing her
On
Twitter
her
thing.
behalf.
Yeah, on her behalf. But whoever it is, it's brilliant. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's just triggered that you mentioned that she saw Marlon at the fight in New York and wanted to, and had to restrain herself from getting up and doing a Will Smith on her. And it just made me laugh so much.
Can you imagine? I mean, I suppose that'd be more acceptable than Will Smith doing it to Chris Rock, because it's boxing, the boxers. Would they get away with that? I feel like they could.
Well, yeah, they probably would. There's a lot you can get away with in boxing.
Definitely. I mean, that is true bad blood. I don't think there's not much bullshit there. I do think that is genuine bad blood. But yeah, I would love to know if it is actually Sinisa Estrada on her Twitter account.
Yes.
But whoever it is, they are like a PR genius because she is so funny. The pictures they're posting, the comments, if she gets any like trolls, tweeting her, she's so quick to fire back in a witty way. So whoever it is such a good account to follow.
It is, yeah, definitely.
The opposite to that is obviously Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. A fight that happened over a week ago and everyone's still talking about it, which is great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. Obviously, it makes me laugh because obviously I've come out and said I thought Amanda won. Obviously got a bit of hate for that. That's absolutely fine. But it does make me laugh because I don't know why everyone's hating because Katie won. So if you're a Katie fan, I don't know why you're getting so upset.
That is true.
I just don't get it. Like, she's won, so you can chill out anyway. If anyone needs to be upset, it's the Amanda fans. But obviously they've been nothing but very respectful of each other. Yeah. And I listened to Katie on DAZN when she was at the Canelo fight. And again, she just has nothing but, pure respect for Amanda. Now, of course, everyone wants to see a rematch. Yeah. I genuinely think Katie wants the rematch, which is great because in theory, she's not inclined to give Amanda a rematch. She can just walk off and say, well, I've beat her now. I don't need to do it again. Yeah. But she does seem quite keen on the rematch. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, straight afterwards, she did seem. I think it's the whole thing, isn't it? It was like she said, it was the best moment of her career.
Yeah,
she soaked in the crowd and she walked out the whole way and being mega. She probably is just so high on that fight. Just it's like I want it again.
Yeah. Well, what can top that though? I genuinely don't think any other fight now can top it. So you kind of think, and I do genuinely believe she is a fighter that wants to be remembered as being, being able to fight the best and not, she hasn't ducked anyone. She took a Pursuing rematch when she didn't need to for not a lot of money because it was behind closed doors.
Yeah.
She took the Amanda fight. She didn't have to. She could have just kept taking mandatories and just sailed off into the sunset with a decent amount of money. But she does genuinely want to go out and beat the best to kind of prove how good she is, which she's done now anyway. I think no matter what happens in the future, she's cemented her legacy.
Definitely.
But the money that they can now make off that rematch, I think will be incredible. And I think that must be a push for her to think, I would be stupid to not do it.
Yeah. And especially if it's going to be in Ireland that they're talking about.
Croke Park, I think it's about 82,000.
Wow, yeah. So pretty decent size.
Yeah. I've been before just on a tour when I went and it was unbelievable. Like kind of the shape of it. It's quite, I remember thinking it would be very special to have. I don't understand like the Gaelic football thing that they play there. Yeah. So I don't think I'd be able to go and fully enjoy it because I don't get the rules and things. But it would be, I remember thinking it'd be great to like watch a concert or something else that I understood because it's incredible. It just feels huge.
Yeah.
And I know like Wembley is slightly bigger, but I remember sitting there thinking this just seems ginormous even compared to something like Wembley, just the shape of it for some reason. But it has been linked to, which I'm not a huge fan of, Conor McGregor, Jake Paul on the same card, and I was a bit like, no, I don't like it too much.
Yeah, because it's going to take the shine off it and make it more of a circus, isn't it?
And I also then just they wouldn't headline then that fight, Amanda and Katie. Then Conor and Jake would headline.
Oh yeah, we can't have that. Katie,
and then I just don't get it.
No, Katie needs the headline.
This is her moment, like, and a couple of people have come out and said, and I was a bit like, you know, I'm a fan of both of them, but you know, Katie is the champion. She's undisputed. She's walked away as the winner, as the champion, and some people have said that it needs to be in a neutral ground, and I don't get that at all, because Katie has every right to say where she wants this fight as the champion. And you know, how many years has she been pro? What has she achieved in the sport? And she's never been able to fight in Ireland.
Yeah, she deserves that moment. And also, in terms of money, you know, Amanda must see as well, by going there, that stadium would sell out, because how many fans has she got in, you know, in her home country that would go and watch her fight? I mean, how many times has she been like sports personality? You know, we love her over there.
That Katie could sell that out on her own, in all fairness, especially now. But now we've all seen Katie and Amanda. It takes two, I think, to sell out something like 82,000, and they will both sell that out based on the first fight. I don't think it needs a Jake Paul fighting. We need Jake Paul as a manager. I think he's brilliant at what he's doing out of the ring. What he does in the ring, I'm not overly bothered about, and I'm not that fussed on seeing it the same night at all, because like you say, it'll take the shine away. And what's a Jake Paul Conor McGregor fight? What's that worth? And what legacy is it? It's nothing, is it? It's just a payday.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a fight that could happen in Vegas, and that's fine. And I'm sure he'll then have a great undercard, and he pays his fighters very well. So I hope it happens, but I don't want to see it the same night at all.
No, it has to be. You know, women's boxing's taken a step forward last weekend. That would be like, I agree, but almost like a step back.
Yeah.
You know, being on the undercard or something like that. This is, you know, this is a serious sport. They're serious athletes. We need to showcase them as that.
Yeah, 100%. And Katie has said herself, she's very confident that she could sell that out, her and Amanda, because like I say, it does take two. It takes a great fight to sell it out. And I 100%, and obviously you want a good undercard. You should have a good undercard in every mega fight, though. It doesn't happen, but it should happen with a good undercard, and with them too, with the fight that we've just seen, one of the best fights of all time, that can sell out without any like gimmick fights for me.
Definitely.
So I would like that. I mean, Amanda Serrano did tweet last night, and she said about a double header with the Canelo Bivol rematch. And Katie and Amanda. Again, the issue I've got with that is Canelo with headline. So I don't like it. I also don't want to see the Canelo Bivol rematch, because Canelo, I don't, that's a separate issue, but I don't get why that would even be a rematch. But again, I just want them to have their own moments. I do truly want it to be an island, just because it's easier to get to for me.
I was going to say, I definitely go to this one.
You know, slightly cheaper and quicker to get there. So ideally for us, we'll have it in Ireland. But you know, I would love Katie to have that moment. She said the only thing that could top Madison Square Garden is Croke Park, and I do think she deserves that moment. And I don't believe there's a bigger fight for Katie than Amanda Serrano in the rest of her career.
Yeah, because I mean, if you just think off the top of your head, other fights that would be popular. I mean, you've got Conlon, who would be very popular over there.
Love Conlon,
that'd be great.
Get
him on the undercard, and then obviously, you know, even someone like Heather Hardy coming across. Let's get Heather Hardy against Terry Harper, because that's the fight we wanted to see before. I mean, Heather Hardy's got the Irish background. So that'd be lovely. That's just off the top of my head as to what.
No, 100%. And there's tons of fights. There are tons of huge fights that can be made to make it a solid undercard. But I genuinely believe if you had one fight and it was Amanda and Katie, I still believe they'd sell out.
Of course. We need anything else.
But obviously you have undercards, but there's tons of fight. Like you say, Conlon, how amazing would that be for him? Especially after his last fight. I'd love to see that as a rematch, actually, again, just as a pure fan perspective, just to watch that again. That was an unbelievable fight. So there's loads that can be made. I hope it's the next fight. I hope they don't have a fight in between. I really want them to kind of ride the momentum and just keep it going. I think I'd be a bit disappointed if they just had like Katie had a mandatory, Amanda had just another fight, and then because they're just kind of ticking over for the sake of it. I think when it was that close and you've got that momentum, like just go, like if I think it's rumored possibly for the end of August, which is perfect. They have a little time off and then get into a 3-month camp.
Yeah, perfect for us to plan a trip to Dublin.
Oh, I love Dublin. The last time I think it was Dublin or Belfast. It was one of them. Been to both, and whatever one I went for like 2 nights, I think, but didn't come home for like 4. Just like kept missing my flight. I was like, I'm gonna have to stay another night and just go out, and drank far too much. Even drank Guinness as well, which isn't for me, but it tastes different there. It tastes better.
When in Ireland, you gotta drink
Not
Guinness.
to. Rude not to. Obviously, on the back of that fight, the discussion that always happens 2 or 3 minute rounds, but it has been quite a big topic this week. And it's quite mixed, actually. It's more mixed than I thought. But what I found interesting when I'm like going through Twitter and like looking at people's responses and things, the majority of fans seem to want 2 minutes, whereas the boxers seem to want 3 minutes, which I've found quite interesting. What's your take on it? What would you prefer at this minute?
Do you know what? I'm so mixed. I can see the argument for both sides, to be honest. And everyone puts some valid points across.
Yeah.
Because I can see, how 2 minutes are much more action packed. And 3 minutes, obviously, the trouble is, it's almost like it's completely different.
Yeah.
2 minutes and 3 minutes, the fight. You think back to loads of fights, there'd be completely different outcomes. So my issue with it would be, I wouldn't mind it either way because there's pros and cons of both. However, what I'd want to see it's across the board. I don't want to see the odd fight is 3 minutes, the odd fight is 2 minutes, because how unfair is that you prepare as a 2 minutes as a fighter and that suits you better?
Yeah.
Suddenly you have to do 3 minutes, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's fair, because it was like how it was put on Katie Taylor to do 3 minutes. Suddenly they were like, oh, let's do 3 minutes. It's not really fair at that point in her career to put on her to have a change like that when it changes the whole fight.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, the trouble is, the other thing is with the whole WBC having done that study about brain damage, saying that it's no good for women. I think a lot of it centralizes on that. But it wasn't, from what I know about it, it needs to be more studies done to try and pick it up, because it can't be just based on that one study.
No.
The whole 3 minutes just doesn't happen because of that. It's just ridiculous. There needs to be more into it than that. If they're saying it's medical, go away, do the research, because I'm sure it's probably actually okay, but they need to get it backed up.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. Well, obviously, when women couldn't box in this sense because they had periods, and then you look back and you think that's actually the most ridiculous thing. And I always think, well, we look back in 20 years and go, oh my God, they said like women couldn't fight because of their brains.
Yeah.
I believe a bit of the science to it, but there's not enough research. I do believe, obviously, women don't have the same amount of fluid around the brain. And I do believe it in the sense of when you look at the tragedies that have happened in boxing, and obviously there's been, unfortunately, a few deaths. I think it was a couple of years ago. There ended up being quite a few in 1 year. When you look at the weight of them, it's always the smaller guys, because they're taking multiple blows to the head. Whereas the bigger boys, obviously it ends up being like, if you look at Dillian White, Tyson Fury, it was one uppercut and then he's out and that's it.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue I have is that them extra minutes, them extra 10 minutes, if they keep it at 10 rounds, I don't believe there'll be any more knockouts at all. I don't buy that at all. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't agree that that will be the case. And I just think it's an extra 10 minutes of constant head blows and it's a bit unnecessary. So I believe the science, but we'll see, because it could be wrong. I'm certainly no scientist at all. I've only got a GCSE, so I'm not claiming to be an expert. But
it makes sense what you're saying, because obviously, a whole load of blows to the head is got to be more dangerous, like you say, in accumulation than the one knockout.
Yeah, and I do buy that, but my frustration always is like you say, do the research properly. It just feels like it's like, well, that'll do and that's it. That's not good enough. These female fighters deserve the proper research conducted, and whether it goes in the favor of 3 minutes or 2 minutes doesn't really matter, as long as they've had the correct time, research and money put into it, then it'll stop the arguments, because then it's scientifically proven one way or another. Doesn't matter then.
Definitely.
So yeah, hopefully that all gets done. I mean, a couple of other people's comments. I mean, the one I don't buy the more knockouts. I could be wrong. I've never bought it. And even Katie Taylor said, and I thought, yes, I must be right then if Katie Taylor agrees with me, because she said it the other day. So I'm not too sure about that. Because like people were like, oh, if Amanda would have had the extra minute in the 5th round, would she have got the knockout? In theory, yeah, but the fight would have been very different. So it's hard to weigh that up, isn't it?
Yeah, it becomes a completely different fight.
Yeah.
Then, like I say, it's just completely different. 2 minutes to 3 minutes, it's just a completely different feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a different sport in a way. It's got to be.
Well, it is. I think it will be, because I think it would. You know, if you look at Amanda and Katie, they didn't really feel each other out the first couple of rounds, because one, you've only got 10 rounds rather than the 12, and that for me is the issue. I'd rather see 2-minute rounds, but 12 of them, rather than 10-3 all day. But you know, they don't really have a lot of time, because they've got shorter rounds and shorter minutes to like feel each other out. So it is quite quick pace. It does make it hard to score because of how fast paced it is. But I'll be honest, a lot of the male fights I watch, I'd rather them at 2 minutes. Because until you get into like the top level, you know, when you're seeing them fight these journeymen or the middle, you know, sometimes I think, oh my God, is this over yet? Like there's one fighter in particular, he was on a Matchroom show. I'm not going to say who it was, but honestly, that 3 minutes felt like half an hour. And I was like, oh my God, come on. Like, and it was a 6-round fight, and it just felt like it took 3 hours. And I thought, I'd rather that be 2 minutes. Like, it's just more entertaining.
Another argument that was quite interesting is the fact that the women go up the ranks quite quickly. So you go from within like about 3 or 4 fights. Some people are having world title fights, and that's suddenly going, 2 minutes, 10 rounds at 2 minutes. Yeah. If we were to go suddenly to 12 3-minutes within 3 or 4 fights, that's way too much of a jump, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like they'd need more fights just to prepare themselves, to go up. And is there enough depth at the moment in the women's divisions to allow more fights? To allow that.
That's a really good point, actually. I mean, we said just before, didn't we, on this? Like, I still think it needs to be slower paced at what everyone's moving at for world titles. But that makes sense with it being, 3 minutes. It would take them longer to get up to that 12-3. That would be a positive, I suppose. But like you say, the depth in some divisions is 100% there, but in others it's not. And that's the issue, is that you could probably get away with it in the middleweight division, probably from like super bantam up probably to around lightweight. I reckon you could get away with it, but anything littler or bigger, you wouldn't. But
100%.
Yeah, so that's another funny one. But that reminds me, actually, someone who's a matchmaker said, and that was quite an interesting point. He said it was Jack Gladden who said, as a matchmaker, he thinks it would be easier it being 3-minute rounds when they turn over. He said it's quite tricky to get European or international fighters over for just 4 2-minute rounds.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of the girls obviously go straight in at 6 2-minutes. And he said that's why you'll find at times that there's quite a few domestic clashes early on in careers, and they're having, people are getting losses on their records and things. So they don't have that opportunity, because I suppose it must be quite expensive to get, like, say, a fighter from Mexico to come all the way over for 4 2-minute rounds for 8 minutes of work.
Yeah.
So that was quite a good point. It still doesn't change my mind, but that was quite a good point. And actually, you are seeing more losses, I suppose, earlier on in people's records. I think that's fine, in my opinion, because they're fighting better people. But I suppose that must be one of the reasons why, which makes sense as well.
That's true. Yeah. Go up against the, like you say, the domestic ones.
Yeah.
Or sort of 50-50.
Yeah. But like, that's how you learn, I suppose. I think it's a fine line. I do think there's definitely room in the sport for like journeymen and journeywomen, because you want to get your time under the lights and develop. But you see sometimes that fighters can be like 15 fights in and they've not even fought anyone close to their level. So I
Yeah.
think it's getting the balance a little bit, isn't it? But someone else put a quite good point that I hadn't thought of, Lee Harwood. He said he feels it could affect women getting slots on the big shows if it's going to take longer. And actually, with some promotions, it probably wouldn't surprise me because typically you would know they're probably going to go the distance. So then
Yeah.
you're going to need 45, 50 minutes for that fight.
Yeah.
So would it affect women getting on as many shows?
Someone like Matchroom, I don't think it would matter because
No.
they're quite invested in the women at the
Yeah.
moment. But yes, the littler cards where they're just on as like a token gesture.
Yeah.
Still some Australian cards, for instance, where they've put. I think they try and do one female fight per card, pretty much. They try and do it, but it's more of a token gesture.
It's like to tick a box, isn't it? To say
Yeah.
I've done it.
And like you say, if it's going to take up too much time, they'd probably be like, yeah, we'll leave that. You're right. It could well affect things. Didn't
So
think about
that was a point I hadn't thought of actually. So,
it.
and I know a lot of people promoters be like, no, they wouldn't affect it, but it would. I do think with the smaller hall shows, not all of them, because I must say, like especially in this country, there's some unbelievable promotions that are putting tons of girls on their card now, which is great to see. But that doesn't happen all over the world.
Yeah, it's
So
thinking about the world, isn't it? Like you say.
yeah, because I do think in our country we are very lucky now, and it's thanks to the likes of Katie Taylor and what Eddie Hearn's done in Matchroom.
Yeah.
That you do see a lot of female fights on cards, and even a lot of the small halls, you will always see at least one female fight on, which is great. But yeah, you think across the world, it probably would affect it. But yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? You wonder at what point a decision will be made. Like you say, it's kind of waiting for the science of it all, isn't it? And that takes a long, long time.
Definitely. And the fact that we haven't got one governing body to decide it, how are they going to come together to say, right, we're going to do it?
I've got a feeling what'll end up happening is that what you said you wouldn't like to see is that some fights will be 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
But obviously you're not fighting for the WBC. And that was something Katie Taylor brought up when she was asked why she said no to 12 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm sure there was many reasons why. One, she's not trained for that. But she said the WBC wouldn't allow the title to be on the line. Therefore, it's not an undisputed fight.
Yeah.
And that was what it was all for. So I actually do think some federations, just to probably get an edge up, will say you can fight 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
But then it's not the same across the board. And then I just think it gets a bit silly then. And then it gets complicated. And then fights are going to be even harder to make. Then it's going to be even harder to have undisputed fights. So
yeah,
it's like boxing's already political. Like, let's not make it even worse. But I genuinely think that's what's going to happen in like the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's going to get really complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And then obviously it's the whole money side of it as well. Because again, that's another thing that Katie was saying, wasn't it? And that a lot of fighters are saying, well, why do the extra work when you're not going to get paid any more for it?
Yeah. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because obviously I always think women need to be paid a lot more. There's no question. I think everyone in boxing would think that. Even what Amanda and Katie have just been paid, it's like they've broken barriers, don't get me wrong, for women. Yeah. But it's nowhere near enough. Like,
no.
I know how much Amanda got paid, and it's still, for me, many, many millions away from what she deserved. And I'm sure Katie would have been similar. I don't know what the pair split was. They never released it, but I think it was quite close to 50-50. For that fight, they weren't getting paid nowhere near enough. Not when you look at Dillian White, who got 8.4 million and barely done anything in the ring. Do you know what I mean? So, but for me, people more the dinosaurs say, oh, well, women don't deserve to be paid more because they don't do the same amount of rounds. But it's not about that anyway. Like, the money comes from like bums on seats, the promotion, who you are as a fighter in a way. Like, can you sell? Can you sell yourself? Look at someone like Ebony Bridges, how she's done it. It's all of that, whether they do 2 2-minute rounds or 15 3-minute rounds. It's not like an office job, is it? You're not doing a 9-to-5 job and clocking in, clocking out. Whether the girls do 10 2-minute rounds or 12 3, they've still got a full training camp. They still work just as hard as the men. They still sacrifice just as much. Yeah. So for me, they should just be getting paid equal regardless. Like I always say, look at tennis. Women do less games and sets in tennis than the men, but they are paid 50-50 because it's about what they bring to the sport as a whole, not the extra couple of minutes in the ring.
Yeah, no, totally. You're 100% right there. Definitely.
So Eddie Hearn, get it sorted, get them paid.
Yes. And the thing is about the pay, what gets me is that people think, oh, they got the million or what have you. Well, they didn't walk away with $1 million.
No, not even close.
They had to give what, 40% to whoever, you know, like a manager, 20% to a trainer, 10% here, tax. How much did they actually walk away with?
Pennies, won't it? Think how expensive just a training camp is as well. Like, I mean, to be fair, I think Amanda and Katie are quite good. They're always in shape and they eat clean and stuff. But you do up it. You've got to pay your sparring partners. You've got to probably pay for them to travel. I know Amanda brought someone from Puerto Rico for the last couple of weeks. So you're paying for his transfers and his accommodation. He's got to eat. You got to pay for all of that. Like you say, there's a huge percentage of management, promotion, your coach, tax. I mean, depending on where you live, I think they're both based in America, so they would have only been taxed once. Sometimes they're taxed twice, and like it's just shocking. And so they come away with just, in theory, a couple of 100,000 plus their endorsements and things like that. But that's not a lot, not for what they've just achieved.
Not when you consider how much the men are getting.
So what did Fury get? Nearly, what was it, 30 or 40 million? Because he got a bit of a bonus.
Yeah.
And I think Amanda and Katie got I think it was around 1.3 million.
Yeah.
But what's shocking to me is the first time Katie and Amanda were offered that fight, they were offered it at 250,000. 250,000 for an undisputed fight. Number 1 versus number 2, pound for pound best, $250,000. They would have went home with like 80 grand, like by the time you've taken everything off. So, you know, at least the pay went up, and I think people don't like him, but I think Jake Paul's a huge part in the pay being what it was, a huge part.
Eddie said that, hasn't he? That suddenly Amanda's stock rose, like just by being associated with Jake Paul.
Yeah. So there's no question, like, and don't get me wrong, Eddie Hearn's a massive part. And they both said, Amanda and Katie said, without Jake Paul, that fight would have been made, but it wouldn't have been for the same money. So whether you like him or loathe him, you can't say he's not doing good for the sport.
Definitely.
He gave Amanda like a $500,000 bonus on her last fight. I mean,
oh wow.
Gave her like $500,000 bonus. He gave all the fighters that won. Or I think all the fights that on the card, apart from like Tommy Fury, this was a couple of cards ago, a massive bonus, and then gave like Amanda like fight of the night or something. She literally got like a $500,000 bonus.
Nice.
No one gives me that.
I love that fact that he doesn't, you know, people slate him, but he doesn't have to be, you know, and they say, oh, he's rich, so that's why no, he doesn't have to be doing this at all.
Yeah.
He could be
so while he's rich, he's still
enjoying his life, not helping the sport grow.
But, and I think even Eddie Hearn said himself, he did call him delusional, but he said he's very passionate about the sport. Like you say, he's mega rich. If he's like the investments that he's got, he could just sail off into the sunset and never be seen again. But he doesn't have to do this. But he looks very passionate about the sport. He's obviously very passionate about Amanda and has a lot of belief in her. So fair play, because you know what? Amanda's been a pro for like 13 years and no one else done it for her. So I don't know why people can criticize him.
No, definitely not. He's definitely grown on me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I will admit, like his first fight, I can't remember who he fought, and I was like, what's this? What are these two YouTubers doing? Didn't get it, but and he supports Liverpool, so I'm a Jake Paul fan.
Oh, we go.
Right, I think that wraps it up with this week's news. Obviously, not tons happening fight-wise. We've got a couple of fights coming up in a few weeks. Obviously, Chantal Cameron defends her title, Ellie Scotney in the same card. So some big things coming up. Ready for next week?
On Friday, we got Hannah Rankin defending her.
Hannah Rankin, very excited for Hannah. Obviously, that's another thing. Hopefully, she comes through this fight and a possible unification with Tasha Jonas.
Yes.
I would like to see that fight. Again, they're very respectful of each other. I think they've known each other a long time and sparred together and things like that. But that'll be a great fight. I presume Boxer will put that on. So it's another big platform. I'd like to see that in Liverpool, actually. That'd be quite nice. Again, close for me. It's only down the road then. I like it. I like it when it's only a 5-minute drive. So I think Boxer should push for that to be in the M&S Arena, ideally, when that fight gets made. But yeah, best of luck to Hannah Rankin, because she's great for the sport again. I've got so much respect for someone like Hannah.
she's such a lovely person, like, you know, and do you know what amazes me is how hard she works, right? I don't know any other fighter who has sparred so many people across the world as her. She's always off like this country, that country spar.
Yeah.
She knows everybody.
She does, but you know what? That's how she must be getting better and better and better, because
Yeah,
you watch every fight, she just makes leaps of improvement, and she's not afraid to get in the ring with it. Like, she's been in the ring with Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall, like, she will literally get in the ring with anyone
yeah,
and make life hard for them as well. So I was so happy when she got to win them world titles. You know, I think she's two-time world champion now, isn't she? So
yeah,
great to see. I believe
definitely.
she'll come through this coming week. And then again, there's a big fight, and again, a nice big payday, because that's something she deserves as well.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like Fight Zone have been absolutely fantastic. You know,
Yeah,
they're a great platform.
yeah,
But I would still like to see her get more of an audience in to see her fight, because I
yeah.
feel like she deserves a really big night, you know?
100, yeah, 100%. I love Fight Zone. I love what they're doing.
Yeah,
They are perfect in the sport. It was what was missing, I think, someone like Fight Zone. So they are fantastic. Their audience continues to grow. But 100%, I think a massive unification fight I would love to see on a platform like Sky Sports,
yeah,
because she deserves it. Obviously, the more money is there then. But yeah, credit to Fight Zone. They got her this world title. You know, they've pushed Hannah Rankin. They promised her a lot, but they've delivered.
yeah.
So, and Fight Zone are doing great wonders for women's boxing as well. You know, they're getting a lot of the younger fighters, a lot of the up and coming fighters, giving them great experience. So there was definitely a need for someone like that in the sport.
Definitely, definitely, and they're very reasonably priced, you know, for their subscription. Because I think there's some sort of free for a couple of months at the moment, and then
Yeah.
back on subscription. But they're you know, even when it's paying, it's like only a few pounds a month.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but it's literally just a few
Yeah,
pounds. Like, it's a lot cheaper than DAZN and things
yeah,
like that. And you get
definitely.
your money's worth. They have tons of shows on. I feel like they virtually have a show on every week, and obviously they do a lot in UK. I think they do a bit in like Malta, and they do quite a bit overseas as well, don't they, around Europe? So
Yeah,
there's fights on, I think, virtually every week. So you get your money's worth. And the majority of fights are genuine 50-50 fights as well. They are very, very good fights that are on the cards. So all very watchable. So I do enjoy Fight Zone, definitely. But yeah, I would love to see Hannah. You know, she's been on a big platform a couple of times, but to be fair, Fight Against Savannah obviously was behind closed doors. So I would love to see her in, like, you know, a sold
yeah,
out M&S arena. And plus I think Tasha deserves that as well. You know, she has fought at the M&S a good few times, but you know, I'd like to see her in a big fight. Obviously in her home city as well.
yeah.
And mine. And it's only up the road, so Scotland's too far.
Get on to Ben. Ben Shalom. Come
I'm gonna
on.
tag him in this and be like, "Yeah, I used to work in Scotland. It's too far and it's too cold, so we'll keep it in Liverpool ideally." But right, we will be back next week, same time, won't we, with more
Yeah,
news?
yeah. We're going to try and do this every week.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, live every week and get out that news, and anything that anybody wants to input, just message us or DM us.
Yeah, that's it. Anyone wants us to talk about, obviously we can have guests as well, can't we?
Yeah, yeah,
So why not? And you know, obviously it's 10 to 10. That's past my bedtime normally, but I'm trying so hard to stay up past 10 o'clock because everyone laughs at me that I go to bed at 9. So this will give me the motivation to stay up past 9 o'clock.
yeah. Because me, yeah, I always have to do sort of. I'm always late. I'm always like, let's start it at 9 o'clock. Oh, half.
Like, Susie, I'm in bed at 7. But no, this is the new me. I mean, I'm still jet lagged, so I'm not going to sleep till like 3. But this is the new me. I'm not going to bed till after 10. So every week, Sunday, 9 o'clock, we can obviously talk different topics. We get guests on and all that. Be great.
Be brilliant, brilliant. Well, it's
Right.
been great, Sasha.
See you all soon.
Yeah.